Unbelievable.
I have one more person in the waiting room, George Stuzen.
All
I'm a
right.
little nervous to let somebody in, but I guess I gotta try.
Are they in, Melissa?
Says joining. We are live on YouTube and recording, so whenever you are ready to go.
Okay. Good evening. I start?
Yep.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is a zoning board of appeal meeting, web-based meeting held via Zoom. March 13, 2025, 7 p.m. We take the roll call. Mr. Trata,
Present.
Mr. DeLucia,
Present.
Mr. Botello,
Present.
Mr. Rivas,
Present.
and I'm Joe Hanna, chairman of the board. We have a motion to accept the minutes from February 27, 2025.
Chairman,
Make a
we
motion
just-
to accept.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Chairman, we just need to seat Bill, please. For Tony.
Oh, I gotta still see them. You gotta make him a permanent member. I seat Mr. Trata will be seated for Mr. Ribeiro. Okay. Go ahead with the motion.
I make a motion to accept the minutes to February 27, 2025.
I'll second.
Motion made by Mr. DeLucia, right?
Yeah.
No?
Yes.
And seconded by Mr. Trata. All in
Yeah.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next regular meeting will be March 27, 2025. Now, we need a motion to open a public hearing, 25-02, 40 Apple Ridge Road.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to open application 25-02 40 Apple Ridge Road, City of Danbury, for a public hearing.
I second.
Made by Mr. Rivas, seconded by Mr. Who seconded? Mr.
DeLucia.
DeLucia. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Anyone presenting the application 25-02, 40 Apple Ridge Road, City of Danbury?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Antonio Idarola. I'm the Public Works Director and City Engineer. I'm also the project executive for the Danbury Career Academy, which is on slate and on schedule to open this fall. It is a brand new high school to take over the overcrowding that we have at the existing high school. So it'll be the west end, if you will, the west side high school. A lot of these zoning variances and accommodations that we're looking for have previously been asked on some projects that we've done. And tonight we hope that you can listen to our presentation. Dan Petrovich, my assistant, is going to be able to actually share the screen. It has all of the documentation, and we're here to take any questions that you may have. But as I mentioned, a lot of the school projects that we do typically require these variances based on the way the zoning is set up right now. So to not further delay, I'm going to introduce Dan Petrovich. Dan, you can kick it off by maybe sharing your screen on the various requests.
All right, thanks, Antonio. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to attempt to share my screen here, and bear with me for a minute. Okay, hopefully everyone can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. So to bring everyone up to speed, just a little bit of a brief history on this project. Back in December of 2022, we applied for a zone change to accommodate this new school at the previously existing Cardis location. As part of that, we had to go from an IL40 zone to an RA40 zone. And as a direct result of that zone change, back in January of 2023, we were in front of this board for two variances. One to increase the maximum building height, and a second to decrease the side yard setback. Today, we are requesting your consideration for a total of, I believe, 6 variances, possibly 7, depending on the complexity of some of these sign variance languages that are directly related to the construction of the school and primarily the identification of the school. So I have in front of me a plan that was shared in the packet for the zoning application. The first variance requested is for an increase in roof projection height from 10 feet to 16 feet to accommodate new rooftop units that exceed the 10-foot projection height. Just as a quick background, what you're looking at here is the roof of the building. On the left side is a 4-story portion of the building. In the center of the building, we have a lower 2-story portion. And then on the right side of the screen, we have a 3-story portion. There are a handful of units on both the 2-story and the 3-story portion of the building that we anticipate will exceed, or we either anticipate or know will exceed the 10-foot maximum roof projection height limit. As part of this project, we made our best attempts to maintain as much of the existing building structure as possible. As some of you know, this was an office building previously with existing duct chases running through all floors of that building. We did our best with the help of our engineers and design team to lay out the new air handlers and rooftop units for HVAC purposes in those locations as possible. And as a result of some of the code requirements related to the fresh air levels and fresh air requirements that classrooms need versus an office setting are much higher. So some of those units grew in size and in footprint, and as a result, they are tall units. You'll notice on this plan, we have identified unit heights. These are unit heights that we do know. We have gotten shop drawings. The units have been ordered. It's something that we could not get around for this. The unit heights are not above the 16 feet that are requested. In fact, they're all below. Some of them on the gym portion are below 10 feet. But please keep in mind that all these units will sit on top of curbs on top of this roof. And these curbs do have varying heights. So we did our best to play it safe and request a number that we know that we will not be exceeding. And this 16-foot height protrusion ceiling, we'll call it, will not exceed the height of the other units that are on the 4-story portion of the building. And I believe there was some correspondence from Mike Safranek from the Danbury Airport that noted he was okay as the overall above grade limit of the above grade level of the building would not be increased as a part of this variance request. With that, Sean, would you like me to take questions item by item, or do you want me to go through the whole presentation and take questions at the end? How would you prefer I proceed?
I think you can, I don't know, is a question for Sean or for us?
Yeah, either I'll tell you, I'll open to questions on the rooftop units. That way we're not jumping around and it's fresh.
Let's take some questions, answer some question now, and then we'll finish the rest after.
Yes,
I have a
thank you.
couple of questions here. Are you gonna be flat roof, right?
Yes, they are flat roofs.
Is all gonna be one level, or is gonna be steps in it, or what?
There are various steps. This portion on the left of the screen is 4 stories. This middle section is 2 stories. This lower portion here, I believe, over the cafeteria is 1 story. Hopefully you can see my cursor. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. So this lower portion is 1 story. We have 2 stories here and 3 stories here. So they are varying levels of height of flat roofs throughout the building.
And your mechanical is gonna be, I guess, some of that outside, some inside, correct?
The large units are all on top of the roof. We do have a chiller for the air conditioner that's located off in the parking lot on the site. But all of the air handler units will be and fresh air intakes will be located on the roof.
Okay. Any question from the board for that section?
Yeah, yes, I have a few questions. So I see that there are air handler units. There hasn't been any, obviously, because of the ongoing construction, I would imagine that there isn't any air to the building as of right now. My question to you guys would be then, if there isn't, would there be a need for more units if once you guys get the air circulation through the building and the most of the construction done inside of the building with air balancing and air testing to make sure that we have adequate air to the building, will there be a need for more units in the future?
As for right now, so these units in this mechanical system, HVAC system, were designed with full occupancy of the building in mind. So they will be able to provide enough air for all the students, for all the teachers, and I do not see any immediate need for new units or in the foreseeable future.
And that testing, was that taken into account for redundancy as well? In case of failure or backup needed to the building?
I do not believe we have redundancy on the rooftop units. Each unit has a dedicated area of the building that it's responsible for providing air to. I think if we did have redundancy, it would be tremendous cost and impact on the roof and on the structure of the building.
You're not gonna have a backup.
I just want to make sure that the request that you guys are making is enough for what you guys need if it was to be approved. But if it isn't, then you guys would have to come back, I would assume. So that's why I asked. But thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question from the board on that part? Okay, you can continue now. The second part.
The second, I'll call it the second group of variance requests are all related to wall signs and identification of the building. This is a pretty unique building for a school and in general, in that there is a shared use of high school purposes and Board of Education administrative offices. The building is also open to driveways and parking on all four sides. So due to those reasons and many other reasons, we have felt it very necessary to have very clear identification of the building. With that, I'll get into the first sign location. We'll call it sign A. It is, let me start on the other plan. It's located on the top corner of the building. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Cardis building, but as you look up at the building from, say, the mall, Bacchus Avenue, or Kenosha, there was a Cardis identifier on the top left corner of the building. We plan on putting a Danbury High School West sign in that same location. Due to the size and due to the amount of letters in the name of the school, the sign is larger than the 32 square feet allowed by zoning. And that sign would be located right here. So this is on the 4-story portion of the building. On the top of the 4-story, it is just a wall-attached lettering sign, unlit, and it's approximately 90 square feet. Moving on to sign B, this sign is again an identifier, Danbury High School West. It is also 90 square feet, and this sign will be located directly above the main entrance to the school, which was previously the Cardis main lobby. And I will scroll back up. This sign is located here. We have a large main parking area to the right of it, and this sign will be the primary identifier for visitors to the school to be able to identify the main entrance and enter through a secure vestibule with a man lock that is manned by a security guard to ensure that they come to that entrance. These signs are both in exceedance of the 20-foot maximum height above grade level. The sign A that I mentioned is approximately 50 feet, 5 inches above grade, and the main lobby sign is approximately 28 feet, 4 inches above grade. There's also a large glass curtain wall above the main lobby doors that presents an issue if we were to try and lower this sign. Where it is proposed now is on metal panels, which provides more room for it to be mounted. The next sign is sign C, which is located in this portion of the building at the yellow highlighted area. This sign is another Danbury High School West sign. It's located at the secondary entrance to the school, which is immediately adjacent to the gym. This is the gymnasium area. And this entrance also has a secure vestibule with a security lobby and a security guard. And this sign is really critical in case there are basketball games or after school events. This will be the primary entrance used. So we want to make sure that we can direct visitors clearly to that area because this area, either through this door or this door, can be locked and closed off from the rest of the school during after school events or activities to keep visitors out from wandering through the school and keep everything contained into the gymnasium area. And that sign is identified here. So this would be the location of the main entrance, and the sign is about 50 square feet. This one's not as high off the ground. It does not require a variance for height. And the last sign is the Danbury Public Schools Board of Education Administrative Offices entrance. So again, we have a parking lot area on 2 sides of the school, one to the right and one behind the school. This sign, we want to make sure that visitors to the Board of Education have a clear path and clear understanding of where they need to enter the school so that we don't have public that has no business going into the school trying to enter the school doors during the day. They will be clearly directed to this area for the Board of Education. This sign is about 116 square feet. Scroll down to the elevation here. And as you see, it's immediately adjacent to the Board of Education main entrance. So just as a quick summary, I had a little bit of help and guidance from Sean Harity on this one due to the kind of complexity of the language of the zoning regulations. So we are requesting a variance to increase the allowable height above ground level from 20 feet to 50 feet 5 inches for sign A. We're requesting a variance to increase the allowable height above ground level from 20 feet to 28 feet 4 inches for sign B. We are asking for a variance to increase the number of allowable wall signs from 1 to 4. And we're requesting a variance to increase the total cumulative sign area from 32 square feet to 346 square feet. And I'll open up to the board for any questions you might have.
Yeah, is the sign A 50 feet 5 inches? Does it have to be that high? Because we just rejected a sign situation for a building on Main Street, and the guy want to go very high. And we rejected the Chamber of Commerce. We like to be somewhere, you know, we like to help, but we have some, we need to have some consistency on what we approve. Is that 50 feet must have, or you can work with something better than that?
The designers chose this location for the sign. It is the same location where the previous sign for the Cardis building was, on the corner of this building. For a landmark project such as this school, this really is a transformative project for the city, rolling out the career pathways curriculum for the school. They wanted to have an identifier that was visible from far, so people could identify and see the school from far. And that's primarily the reason for that.
Yeah, we like that, but I mean, the city should change those. The city of Danbury is growing now. We're gonna have a lot of high-rise building, and they must rewrite that regulation for the sign. Because every time we have to deal with it, is becoming a burden on us. Anyway, that's my questions, but I'll open the floor for the board members. Anyone have a question about those signs?
I know you mentioned it before when you earlier in the presentation, but you did say the signs would not be lit, correct?
Correct. They are lettering only. Any lighting on them would be ambient lighting from parking lot lights, you know, in the evening. But they won't have any lights behind them or on them, because you're in an area where there's a lot of air traffic too, you know, and that could be a distraction, and that could be a problem if the sign is up that high. Yeah, I can confirm letters only.
Okay.
Or I should say letters only, no electric, no lighting.
Yeah.
No,
That would have been my concern too, you know, if there was lighting, but
it is interesting, and Tony makes a great point about how the city should take a look at that height requirement, because like he said, we are getting bigger buildings. People want to put up signs. The last one that we turned down was one that they wanted to light. So that put a whole different dimension on it. But still, if the variance says it can only be so high, and then we just say, okay, go ahead. It just, you know, it's hard to do that until the city puts in a plan where we can have the option to have a higher sign and not have a problem with it.
Yeah, if I could just add to the conversation, there's still holes in the building from where the old Cardis sign used to be located in the same exact location. The biggest problem that we have, and Danny actually brought it up pretty early, is, you know, we really are working with residential requirements, but we're building a commercial building. So that's really what drove a lot of the variances that you have in front of you, unfortunately. So I do want to just highlight those 2 points. And as has been mentioned several times, these are not lit signs. If these were, it would drastically change the look and the presentation that they pose.
Are there going to be any lit signs?
Ma'am,
Hold
Yeah.
on, hold 1 second now. You're from the public, you're gonna wait a little bit. The
Yeah, this
question
is,
from the board first, okay?
Okay,
All right. Any
we'll get your
other,
chance, ma'am.
any other questions from the board?
I have a few questions. I understand Mr. Adirola's comments, but my question is the buildings, or my comments and then questions are, is the buildings up on a hilltop, I understand, so let me see how I should word this, is I understand the need for identifiers, but if the signs are not being illuminated and it's up on a hill, is there any way that we can condense the square footage of the signs? I understand that we're working with residential, zoning regulations, but that's one of my concerns. And the other thing is, what is the hardship here? I can understand the hardship when it comes to the rooftop units. We can talk about safety and health, health being of the public, being the children. But what is the hardship here that we're looking at? It's a lot of signs and a lot of big signs. I'm just wondering if there's something that we can do to condense the font, the size of the lettering.
So the hardship is really primarily for wayfinding through the site, for security and safety. When it comes to our schools, we really don't want people wandering around the site, not knowing which way to go or where to go. So that's primarily the reason for the size of the signs, as well as, to be frank with you, the number of letters in the signs. If this was a Cardis, for example, 5 letters long as an identifier, you're not talking about anywhere near the same amount of sign area. Here we have 21 letters in a hyphen for Danbury High School West. The name of the school is what it is, but it's really for clear, concise direction for any visitors going to or on the site.
And let me just, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we are working with building a commercial building that's going to accommodate 1,400 students and is going to get, a significant amount of visitors, including kids that are showing up every day. But you also have the Board of Education folks that are going to be getting new students coming in. They register them. They get them going. They get them into the system. Identifying the building is probably one of the most important things we have. But again, going back to the broken record, we're really working with residential regulations in a commercial building setting. And that's really, unfortunately, the biggest problem and challenge we have. And that's what drove these variances.
Yeah, but
Okay,
even commercial building, they can't put the sign that high, We working against the city regulation. You guys work for the city, and you come ask us to approve something for you, way out of control. And why the city doesn't change those regulations to make it for buildings such as high school, such as hotels, such as all commercial building, be able to put the sign higher, because for a safety reason, the sign should be a little bit lower, because what are people gonna look way up to see the sign?
So, Mr. Chairman, I can't disagree with you that this change should probably occur. unfortunately, we're stuck with building a building with the current regulations. I also just want to reiterate the fact that there was a sign in the same exact location when this was an IL 40. Unfortunately, in order to build the school, we had to revert back to a residential 40 zone, which caused us to fall outside of the regulations that apply to that zone. But the Cardis building had a sign in the same location. The size of the signs are based on professional architectural opinions, based on the masking of the building and
Yeah.
getting it so it can be read
Guys,
based
blame it on
on the
architectural.
professional opinion. So
We understand
I
that,
know, but if you could just let me finish for 1 second.
yes, go ahead.
We didn't determine the size. It was done by a professional based on the size of the building and its ability to be identified. The lettering is no bigger than it was when Cardis was there. So, you know, those are the parameters that we try to fit into. We're not looking to get any bigger. Unfortunately, Danbury High School West is a little bigger than Cardis. But, you know, other than that, there's not much we can do but to fit in to what we previously had.
So Antonio, what you're saying and the sign, and I remember the sign, it's in the exact same location as that sign, Danbury High School West, in the picture we're looking at here, way up on the above the fourth floor, correct?
It was in the corner, yeah.
Right, and it said Cardis.
Yeah, it
So
said Cardis,
could
exactly.
they, and I know this is going against maybe the moral fabric of what you're doing here, but could they just put DHS West?
So what's interesting, and I'm just going to share this with you, I never seen such a controversial conversation regarding naming of a school. The Board of Education struggled with it. It was deliberated over and over and over. They ended up having to reconsider the name. It's been a long process to get the name of this school figured out. We didn't do it. It was done through a lot of collaborative action and discussions through the Board of Education internally. But we got the name and we went out and actually gave it to our architect, and our architect actually designed the signage. So yes, I agree with you. Maybe doing DHS West could work. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what it would take to go back through the Board of Education and try to get this reapproved and renamed.
I understand that. I'm just talking about that one sign that's way up top. That's the only one that they could do DHS West. All the rest, except for the other one, are at least in an area where it's a lot easier and it's not going up 50, 55 feet or whatever it is. So if they did DHS West just there, you know, the buildings in New York City do that. There's buildings that just use their abbreviation up top, and then on the bottom, where the people go in on the street level, they have the full name.
I want to take you with me to the next Board of Education meeting.
I'll come.
All right.
We all will come, but listen, for safety reason, average person walking and looking up to see the sign is gonna have a neck problem, you know. So you guys designing things for, yeah, the high sign is okay if you're driving in the street, but for the people who walk on a parking lot, how are you gonna see 50 feet up? You're gonna push your neck all the way back. You're gonna have
Mr. Chairman, when you approach this building, you're actually coming up the hill. So your car is pointed facing the sky as you come up.
I'm talking about when you're in a parking lot. That's what it is. But
it's actually Cardis was very easy to read as you were in the parking lot.
okay.
50 feet is not as tall as you think.
Any other question from the board?
I think I'll make a comment. I don't have a question. I think this variance in this meeting tonight should be taken into consideration by the city officials, the city of Danbury, and maybe advocate for a revision of the zoning regulations.
Any
Just,
other-
just quickly through the chair, just to bring it up, and Commissioner Rivas brought up a good point here, but remember, this is a school that was a commercial building that had a zone change, that had multiple approvals and multiple variances. When I looked at this with Dan and Antonio, and they bounced these sign ideas off of me, it's the consistency, the existing building that we're stuck with. And you remember the previous variances that were granted were all based on the zone being changed. So when you start comparing this to a petition that was in the CCBD that was lit up and it was commercial, I think we got to judge it a little differently. Do we really want to allow standardly in a residential zone a sign to be 50 feet high? No, it will require a variance, which is why you gentlemen are hearing this right now. So it's not being taken lightly. It's more of what is viewable, what's approachable, what an outside school will see when they're coming up, easily identification. When the long road going up to the school, we want to make sure when you're turning onto it, you know where you're going. So it all melds together. So that the idea of it being different because of what happened in the CCBD, I'm just letting you know that a lot of changes happen just to make the school happen here, and we put schools in residential zones for serviceable reasons. So just a little background history. I thought
Thank you.
I just want to piggyback on what Sean said. We need schools in Danbury. This looks like a good spot, and we're arguing over a sign. Maybe we should just move on.
Well, I think the only reason we're talking about it is because of the law in the city. The variance says X amount, and once you say, okay, and it's a school, and I understand completely, it's a school. We need the school. It's going to be a very big asset to the community to have students in there instead of piled into Danbury High over on the Clapboard Ridge there. But the thing that we run into a problem with is, here's the law, here's what the city says for zoning. Now they want to change it. Okay, fine, no problem. But this opens up a whole thing again of, we turned down somebody a few weeks back for a sign that was up high. This is different. It's a school. I understand. It should be a no-brainer. It should be boom, go, do your thing. This is a school. It's going to be a great thing. We're just looking at it in the sense of, okay, we're going to approve this, but now what happens to the next one that comes in that's not a school? Yeah, you did it for the high school. Well, it was the high school. Well, what's the difference? You know what I'm saying here?
I think the whole point of this board is we have discretion. We look at the whole picture.
Right.
And go from there.
And that's what I'm saying. It is a
So
high
right
school.
now, it sounds like, maybe they shouldn't have the sign there according to law, but if Cardis had their sign there and they want to throw up Danbury High School West, we let them do it, build a school. Everybody's happy.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I said before is just that sign up there, the high one, which everybody's kind of concerned about. DHS West, bam, Board of Ed, you got to do it. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't get a sign. DHS West, boom, end of story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that the most important part is it doesn't pose any kind of risk to any of the aircraft landing over there.
Right.
Mr. Stefanik's letter, and I'm pleased with everything I read.
All right. Any other question or yeah, from the board? Okay. Any question? Anyone oppose this application?
Mr. Chairman, we have more variances I think we have to go through, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
We do,
All right.
we do,
I know
Mr. Vice
it's been a lot already, but I have one more group to go through.
Oh, more group?
Yes.
I
So
thought you read it.
our last set of variances being requested is for a freestanding monument sign. This sign is located on the adjacent to the main driveway of the school. So if you can see my cursor, Apple Ridge Road, you would come up the hill from Apple Ridge Road, come around the corner, and approach the school from this direction. What we are proposing is a freestanding illuminated message board sign, basically very similar to what Danbury High School currently has out in front of the school on Clapboard Ridge Road. You can see here the location of the sign is not within any of the setbacks. and it's set back in a grass area. It is double-sided, so it can be seen from vehicles approaching the school as well as vehicles exiting the school. And this is its location on the site, and we'll come in here. This is what the sign will look like. It is on a brick monument base with a LED message board sign on top of it. The height here is noted as 6 feet. That is the maximum. It will not exceed 6 feet in maximum in height. I just noted that 6 feet on there to make that clear. So we are seeking a variance for this sign, both for the total allowable sign face area, increasing that from 32 square feet to 102 square feet, which is essentially 51 square feet, including both the base and the display portion of the sign on each side. So that's 51 square feet per side, front and back. And
That sign is already there.
Hold on. Your turn will come after a while, okay? And this is now, let him present his case.
And the second variance associated with this is to permit the use of a flashing or moving illuminated sign. This sign will primarily be used similar to the way the sign is used at Danbury High School now. It notes school events, schedules, dismissal times, any information that the school administration deems important to get out to the students, the parents, the visitors, the staff coming to or leaving the school. This sign is located at the top of Apple Ridge Road. It will not be visible from the main road on Kenosha Avenue. It will really only be visible to people coming to or leaving the school, people that have business there. It was a special request of the high school administration. It will be controlled by the high school administration. If there are any restrictions on control of the sign that the board would like to see as part of this variance, I'm happy to pass that information on to the high school and include that as part of an approval if it is granted. Photos down here are just the typical type of sign. It's essentially it's not multicolored. It is, I believe, just a red, black, amber sign. It's not a sign that would have whites or like a TV display, for example. It's a more simplified LED sign. And happy to take any questions.
I just want to add to what Danny is saying here. This is a ground-mounted sign that has 2 feet of brick that's going to be showing, and then the actual sign is 4 feet above that brick base, if you will. So it is a ground-mounted sign. The literature that he just scrolled through showed a elevated sign on a post. That's not what we're doing. So I don't want anybody to think that what he was just showing was going to be this elevated, another 50-foot high sign. You're not getting that here. This is a ground-mounted sign. This is one of the requests the Board of Ed had. They felt very adamant about the fact that they use it for messaging. And if there's any issues pertaining to day-to-day operations, they could easily put a message up to guide the 1,400 students and additional parents that are coming in to drop off their kids.
Okay, is that sign is gonna be flashing all the time? And how long you gonna run it? Run it all night long too, or are you gonna follow the city rules for running this flashing sign, or are you gonna be special?
I think the most important part, Mr. Chairman, is to have it active during school hours and potentially during the time that the Board of Education is open. If the Board of Education needs to direct folks internally on the site. But other than that, whatever operational limitations you would like to impose, we can communicate that back to the Board of Education.
Well, my concern is because you are in residential area, and I'm sure that people are gonna be opposing a flashing sign at night. If it's,
Well,
that's
no,
what I want to clarify here. That if it's during the day, that's fine.
we are the highest point on top of this mountain, if you will. And there is a condominium complex that has buildings that are lower than the parking lot area and even lower than where the sign is. There's also a privacy fence along that property line. The balance of the site is consistent and occupied by other commercial and industrial use buildings.
Okay. So I want to go back to the flashing. How often you're gonna flash that sign? Is it gonna be running continuously? Is it gonna be only when they have something to tell the people out there, or what? Because the people complain. The city have flashing sign in front of City Hall, and when everybody comes for flashing sign, we they complain that the city does not go by the rule. So
Well,
we
that's why
can't.
you have a zoning enforcement officer. You set the parameters of operation and he would enforce them.
I think you're talking about the same type of, you're talking about the same type of sign that's over at the high school now. That's on, I guess most of the time it's on, and there are people right across the street. There are houses right across the street there. And Sean would know, I wouldn't know because I'm not at City Hall, but do they get complaints about that, Sean, or no?
The
I mean,
sign at the sign at City Hall?
No, the sign at Danbury High now, the one that's illuminated and flashing.
No, not really. Well, I mostly call them and hold them to task on what the ZBA approved them to do, the one message per day.
Yeah.
But they, like I said, and we used to have back in the day, Mr. Trotta, a time and temperature rule where we had time and temperature were the only movements that we allowed. So it kind of slid into that era, but I haven't received any complaints per se because of that sign, because it's lower mounted on the Clapboard Ridge sign.
Yeah.
So it's like this would be, it's kind of shielded from view.
Yeah, I just also want to add, I don't think there's probably, I've been to a lot of high schools because my daughter was on a swim team, but I don't think you're going to find a high school today that doesn't have one of these signs. It seems to be part of the cloth of the way they operate their schools. This was probably one of the most requested elements of the design when we designed the school. Again, the request came through the Board of Ed, and it seems to be a common theme across the state, especially for high school and middle schools.
Okay.
Listen, we all agree with you, but the thing is, the city should change those regulations regarding the signs. That's what we are here for. We're not gonna, but we have to do our job, and we try to do the best we can. You know what I mean? But
one other quick question, and we didn't see it. I didn't see it in the plans. It is a high school. Will there be, maybe not right now, but in the future, will there be ball fields, football fields, baseball fields, anything like that around the school anywhere?
God.
There's no current proposal to do any of that at this time.
Okay. The only reason I ask is because sometimes when they do that, then lights go up.
Yeah,
And then
no-
neighbors they get real testy.
Yep. Now we understand. We've already dealt with a little bit of a lighting issue already.
any more question from the board?
I have two questions for Dan and Antonio. Dan, I know that you mentioned the colors. Will the lights have any sort of strobe element to it? And I think to kind of piggyback on Chairman Hannah's question, I think what he was trying to ask, what is there a set schedule by the Board of Ed or the school administration on the sign yet? And I think that's what he was trying to ask. And if I'm incorrect, That would be my question to you guys.
I'm not aware of any strobing effects that would be of any use for the school to put in place on the sign, or its capabilities. To be completely honest with you, I think that would be a distraction more than anything, more than a message conveyance that they're intending to use it for. As far as scheduling for the sign, I'm not aware of any discussions that they've had as far as plans for it. If I had to guess, I would assume that it would be consistent with how they're currently operating the sign out on Clapboard Ridge in front of Danbury High School now. I would imagine it would be comparable to that.
Okay. Thank you.
And by the way, we did get a zoning variance for that sign also.
Just really quick through the chair to Commissioner Rivas. So flashing wouldn't be permitted anyway. I think we're looking for a message changing or a transition. So you could limit the messages per, like we did before, per minute. You could say that you want the sign off at a certain time. That's totally legitimate. But the flashing part of it, the strobing, would not be permitted anyway.
No, I understand. I just wanted to make sure that I got an answer and it was in the record.
Me too. I don't have a problem with all this, but I have to bring it to the attention for the city people that they have to rewrite this regulation regarding the flashing sign and a regular sign too, for commercial building, for everything. We have to use some consistency. I understand if we, forgive a little bit here and there, but when it's too much, I don't know why you guys need us over there for. It might as well do everything you like. That's it. So that's it. Any more questions from the board? Any more questions from the board? Anyone in favor of this application? Anyone in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
maybe the city could stop sharing its screen, so or leave it up. I guess it doesn't make any difference. I'm Paul Rotello from 13 Linden Place in Danbury. For the record, I also happen to be a city councilman representing the 6th Ward, which is the location of this particular petition. And I represent not only the petitioner in this sense, the city of Danbury, but also the neighbors. And through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of comments and questions that you can direct to the appropriate petitioners, Director Iadarola or the representative from the architect. I want to be clear, starting with the electronic sign, that it's on the east side of the building and the faces are to the south and to the north. So I want to be clear on that. The second thing I want to be clear on is that I've been up at that site a million times. A matter of fact, the previous administration and I worked out, along with a million other people, the transition from the original location of the school, which is going to be at the summit, to this particular place. So we did a lot of work up there before the city even purchased the building. I'm really well aware of it, and actually went to school there when there was a field before it was even constructed. And so I want to be clear that electronic sign is not visible to the north, which would be the Lake Place condominiums. To the south, there's really not much there. I mean, you've got Yale Road down below. I don't think they can see it from there. And of course, Worcester School of the West can't see it because the building's blocking it. And I don't think you'll be able to see it from the east either, because the edge will be pointing to the east like that, at least according to my notes on the presentation. So that's just let me know if it's going to be visible or not to Lake Place North and South. That's a major issue for those residents, and also that it would not be on all night long. I'll leave this up to obviously the commission about when they want to set lighting limits on that, but maybe 30 minutes before school starts and 30 minutes after school ends or something like that would probably be a starting point for when that sign could be illuminated. But ultimately, if nobody can see it, it's like a tree falling in the forest. It doesn't really make any difference, As far as the brouhaha with the school lettering nomenclature and the let's call them the logos for the school, Cardis indeed had a sign up there, and I don't know where we're going with this, because if Cardis, it was aisle 40 and it was allowed, or Cardis got a variance, we know that variances go with the site, they don't go with the use. So if there was a variance to have a sign at 50 feet, that variance still exists. And I suppose you could argue that it only exists if the Cardis sign had to be removed for cleaning. It could be put back up, and you can't change the lettering or something like that. But this is, to me, it's a relatively small ask to have a proudly displayed Danbury High School West sign up there that can be seen from other parts of Danbury. I think it's a good idea. I'm actually surprised that the city hasn't asked for additional lettering like Danbury High School West, the lower sign on the east side of the building, and then underneath that, main entrance. And the other one on the north side of the building, Danbury High School West, underneath that gymnasium entrance, which would seem to me maybe a little bit more appropriate, and maybe down the road they can have some freestanding signs or something like that to direct pedestrian traffic to the proper locations. So that's it for the signing. When it comes to the HVAC system, we have an issue here. Nobody living today has been through a pandemic except for the one that we just got through, and that to some extent we are still going through. My grandparents lived through the Spanish flu, and they had a lot of experience dealing with that. My parents, who were born in the 20s, missed it by a couple of years. But nobody I know was actually around for the flu of 1918. So we kind of had to make things up on the fly when it came to COVID. And in retrospect, we did it for the right reasons, but we made a mistake. We thought the safest place to put kids would be outside of congregate housing and inside their homes. Since then, we've determined the best place to keep kids is actually in the school. And we have to allow the technology to get to the point where the air is safer in the school than it would be in a house with relatives coming or going in malls and things like that. So the direction that we're going now, compliance is becoming more and more difficult for air handling inside school buildings, as it should be. If, God forbid, we ever get another pandemic, and it looks like, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with chickens and with SARS and things like that. We would want to be able to keep them inside the school. And in order to do that, we have to have really robust air handling and air cleaning inside these buildings. It doesn't make any sense to take the kids, 1,500 kids, out of that building and put them willy-nilly all over town. Let's keep them in the building if we can, and let's ensure that the air handling in those structures is good enough. So point taken for the city of Danbury for recognizing that the level of air handling is much higher for a school, whether it's in a residential zone or a previously commercial zone. It doesn't really make any difference. But air handling for a school building, regardless of what the building was used for before, is of a higher nature and a more complete nature than it would be if it remained Cardis. So that's that discussion. What happens though is we have to recognize it is in a residential area.
Can I interrupt you 1 second, please?
Yes. So the question would be, through the chair, Mr. Chairman, I have the floor here if you don't mind. The question would be, through the chair, respectfully, are these air handling units going to be quiet enough so they do not disturb? We recognize the necessity of having them, and we appreciate that, and we want them. But will the neighbors be affected by the noise of these units? I don't think the height is an issue. If the height's okay with the director of administration for the airport, that's fine. I think the issue might be, if I lived at Lake Place North, am I going to hear them in the summertime when they're working full time to keep that building cool for summer school and things like that? Or will they be quiet enough that the noise that they make on the roof doesn't really drift down to whether it's my unit or Worcester School or the people on the Old Road? So those are the three comments and questions. The electric sign, did I get that right about the orientation? And the air handling units, noise and vibration and lighting and things like that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your indulgence.
Yeah, well, I know the air handling, they built very well today. They have insulation on the wall, and they have rubber seating for vibration. I don't know what system they have. I'm not an engineer to talk for them, but if are you you want those question answered, I leave it to Mr. Dan to answer them for you if you need.
That's all I ask, Mr. Chairman.
I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
take the question, Mr. Chairman. If
Go
that's okay. So let me just start with the air handlers. A lot of the noise that you would hear with a significant HVAC system that has air conditioning isn't coming from the air handler, it's coming from the compressors that run the chillers. Our compressors are on the ground in the far back corner, and there is a noise wall all the way around it to try to really mask the noise. These units will be no louder than the units, probably less than the units that were there on the roof that actually had built-in chillers. And because they're a little bigger, all they're doing is actually taking fresh air from outside, opening up a little bigger opening and bring fresh air in, and then exhausting it out. Really, the noise that comes out of an HVAC system is always related to the chiller. The chiller is the one that's working really hard to compress the chiller media in order to distribute it to make cold air. And I have to agree, Paul, with your analysis of the positioning of the sign. You're absolutely right. There's the way the lit sign that is on the ground and the positioning of it is really up high. It's down on the ground. When I say up high, I mean we're up on top of a hill, and there's privacy fencing on the side where you have the condominium complex, with the roof of the condominium complex almost at the elevation of the parking lot. Now, you've been up there many times. I've seen you up there, so you probably know this. And Paul, if I'm missing anything else, let me know as far as questions.
No, that's it, Mr. Iadarola. Really, it's noise and lighting, the two things that really get the neighbors cranked up. Trucks, additional traffic, noise, and lighting. Something that disturbs them when they don't want to be disturbed. When they're sitting on their deck having a drink at the end of the day, whatever, on a nice summer evening, they want a little peace and solitude, and I can certainly appreciate that. So thank you for your time. It was the orientation of the sign. Can it be seen? It cannot. It's the noise from the chillers. Is it going to be louder than it was at Cardis? It's not going to be louder than it was at Cardis. I never got a complaint during the entire 30 years I've been a representative representing that area about the Cardis chillers. They may have complained to their own board, but I never heard about that. So if it's going to be even quieter than Cardis, that's definitely a plus. So those were the issues that I had. Thank you, Mr. Iadarola, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that.
Okay. Anyone else in support this application?
Can I ask now?
No, hold 1 second. Are you in support or are you opposition?
I have no opinion at this time. I just have a couple questions.
Okay, go ahead, ask the question.
I don't know if you can see over my shoulder. That is the new gym for
The chair. We just need you to identify first and last name and
Yes.
address, please, for the record.
My name is Duffy O'Brien. I live at Lake Place South. And what you see behind me is the new gym at the new school. You can see that clearly through my window. In the summertime, the trees are filled in between me and the building. And as when Cardis was there, I couldn't see anything from my condo to the building. But in the wintertime, I can wave at the snow plows and they flash their lights at me. They got to the point where the snow plows in the wintertime turned off their headlights as they were clearing the parking lot, which we all appreciated. Let me explain Lake Place South. The privacy fence that everybody keeps talking about, that covers the first floor. I'm on the second floor, the bedroom floor of my condo. and I can see straight across the parking lot, straight across into the school. In the wintertime, you can see everything. The privacy fence does nothing. So I also have a concern about the air handlers, that whole system, and is it going to run 24/7? And how loud is it going to be? So that's one question. The second question, that LED sign that was discussed, that's already here, has been for many months. And you can see that from the condos at Lake Place South. Their bedroom levels have a straight line across the parking lot, and there's nothing stopping them from seeing that sign, no matter how many hours it runs. Currently, Cardis used to turn off the parking lot lights that were at the edge of the parking lot next to our condo complex. I've noticed in the past couple weeks, past 3 or 4 weeks, those lights have been turned off here now also. Otherwise, it lights up my whole backyard. My backyard is about 6 feet from the property line that the Danbury school system now resides on. So that LED sign, the flashing sign, I would think I can't see it because I'm directly across from the gym. But the people about 24 condos away from me will be able to see it pretty clearly. So if that sign runs 24/7, I think they're going to complain. So Lake Place North can't see anything at the school. Lake Place South, those roughly 24 of us that have condos right up against the parking lot, we see everything. So having the sign, the size of the signs around the building, I don't really care. It makes no difference to me. But the new air handlers, I have a concern about that, about the noise level, and also the flashing lights from that LED sign that
Okay, so,
already exists.
so the signs, you don't have a problem with the sign, do you?
The regular signs, no. The Cardis sign, the big one that everybody is talking about, you could see that from the airport. You could see the sign on the side of the building. You could see it from the airport. You could see it from the shopping mall. You can see it from Route 7. You can see it forever. But if it's not, we don't see it at all.
But you could see the sign before, when it was Cartes.
You could,
right?
The condo complex could not, but because of the topography here, that sign being, the building being at the top of the hill and the sign being as big as it was, you could see it throughout the whole valley there, where the mall is, where the airport is, where Route 7 is.
Listen, they put in the sign, the same place was for Cartes.
Right.
So why before you don't see it, now you're gonna see it?
No, the sign that I'm questioning is the LED sign.
Right.
That we're going
Oh,
to see.
the one yeah, they're not gonna run it at night, blinking. They probably shut it down certain time.
That would be perfect.
But the zoning officer, he's gonna put a schedule and the timing for the flashing.
Okay.
We're not gonna do that. So
Okay.
sure they put it on a timer that will start certain time in the morning, it'll shut down certain time in the afternoon, whatever. That we go back to the handler. He just answered this question. I think air handlers, that what I know about these things, the older one, they were more noisy, same thing like air conditioning. But now the newer one, they're making them much more, they put in heavy installation on the wall for them, and they run pretty quiet. They're a little bit noisy, but I don't think you're gonna hear them. but maybe I would let Mr. Antonio answer that question more for you, because I don't know what the unit they bought. Mr. Antonio, can you answer?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I kind of covered that already.
Yeah.
As Paul brought it up. But you're absolutely right. There is internal sound proofing in the units. Again, we're looking at units where a separate chiller is separate and apart from the actual unit. Typically, you will see these where they're combo units. They have a built-in chiller and the air handler is all one.
Yeah.
The very top of the existing high school has that similar, very large compressor with an air handler that covers the auditorium area and that entire A wing. These are separate systems.
Okay.
And Antonio, if I can just add, with
Yes.
with the school and classroom requirements comes along acoustic requirements inside those classrooms. So all of these rooftop units for the air handlers that are on the roof, they have to be quiet enough to meet the stringent acoustic requirements so as to not introduce noise into the classrooms that are on the floors directly below them. The chiller unit itself, as Antonio said, is separate and aside from any of these rooftop units. It's located in a far corner of the parking lot, and it is surrounded by sound attenuating walls to assist with suppressing any noise that it generates.
Ms. Duffy, did that answer your questions?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Anyone in support of this application? I want to go back and ask the same question because anyone in opposition?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
okay, I'm probably for it, and I'm mostly for it, so I'm just gonna speak, not try to repeat what all the other people spoke about as well. Just for the record, my name is Benjamin Shanese, 5 Briar Ridge Road. I'm also a city councilman, as with Councilman Rotello as well.
Mute you for 1 second, please. Are you in support or in opposition?
I'm actually in the middle. I have concerns.
All
I'm
right.
for it, but I'm optimistic as well, so I'm actually in the middle. How's that?
Go ahead.
Since I'm probably the last speaker anyway for the evening. So again, I basically live on the west side of this building, so where I don't necessarily see it, but I do see a lot of neighbors who are also concerned about some of the issues that were brought up this evening concerning the noise of these new handlers. You know, I live basically in front of Boehringer Ingelheim. As we all know, that's a very large pharmaceutical, and when they first put up their handlers, it made a lot of noise, and a lot of the neighbors complained about it. And Boehringer, being a good neighbor, they actually spent over $2 million to put a way where they silenced them. So I just wanted to be on the record that, you know, we won't know until it's actually installed. So we just got to let, you know, that the city needs to be aware that if it does have noise, and like Mrs. Duffy says, we have to at least address it one way or another. But we won't know that until it's actually installed. And the public director could be right. It may be no noise, but we won't know that until it's actually there. And the other thing, again, is consistency with this commission. I know back in a few months ago, I don't know if I think he withdrew it when someone wanted to put a sign 50, 75 feet above his building, and this commission basically objected to it. So you have to really keep that in mind when you approve these items. Why do you need something 90 feet above where you really can't see it? Because I don't see the hardship that was presented this evening where those signs should even be there. I think the current zone does allow for signage that could be very useful and handle security where you don't need to have a 90-foot sign up there. But again, I just want to put it on the record that your decisions should be consistent with your other decisions. If you voted no for one, you should vote against this as well. So you don't get sued in the other way. And the other one, again, is the LED signs. As you know, probably one of the big objections to it. only because, again, it isn't allowed in the zones. And they're only allowed because of a hardship. And I haven't yet heard a hardship that would allow for one of those signs. So unless it was already discussed what that hardship is, I don't see it. I don't see where a hardship will invite you to have an electronic sign. The Board of Ed always sends out a lot of communications to their parents and students, so they already know what's going on. So you really don't necessarily need electronic sign to say, hey, what's going on? Because they should already know what's going on before they even enter that facility. And also you have to understand too, that there's two other buildings there on that property, not just the school. There's a new building to the south of that or southwest of that, that's just been purchased. That's going to have a industrial condos in there, and it's going to have an auto dealership restoration in there. Are you going to allow electronic sign for them too? Because they're going to have the same hardship as the school's going to have, so they should have electronic sign too. And what about the Hologic building that's going to be vacant in a few months? I mean, the city has first rights to purchase it, but if we don't, and another tenant goes in, you're going to give them a sign as well. So I think you have to look at not just what's going to happen currently, but you got to understand what's going to happen in the future. And I know Mrs. Duffy had concerns about the light going on and off, and that was the same concerns I had when you did the same one for the Danbury Fair Mall, when they have their electronic sign that goes on at 7 o'clock and goes off at 9:30 at night, and I think the message is, correct me if I'm wrong, is every 30 seconds or something. It was a slow message. It wasn't every 2 seconds, it was every 30 seconds, I think. So if you're going to allow these types of signs, you should think of that as well. And also, if you're going to keep allowing these signs, it's my opinion, is you make a recommendation to the zoning commission to finally put it in their zones to create a zoning regulation that will regulate these signs, so we won't have to keep coming back and forth with these signs. And I, like you said, maybe the location of that sign needs to be changed where it's not seen from Lake Place North. Maybe it has to be lower on the street, lower on that driveway, so where it's not seen. Because remember, the city of Danbury owns that road. And it could put that sign anywhere along that road where it'd be less, where others can't see it. Remember, that's a high point. You're on Worcester Heights, you can see that building very clearly. So you're going to be able to see that sign blinking as well. So those are some of my concerns. I'm sure some of those have been addressed this evening, but I just want to understand that, your decision tonight will have impacts on other buildings, the other two buildings that are also up there as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time.
Okay, well, and you seem to be more on the opposition side, but anyway, the questions you have, they were answered repeatedly by the two gentlemen, Mr. Dan and Mr. Antonio. So we cannot speak for the air condition ourselves. We don't know what brand, what name, how many SEER it is. They can answer. I don't know if they know. Mr. Antonio, you know how many SEER that air handler is, so we can provide it to them?
No, I don't. And Mr. Chairman, again, I think I've repeated myself probably 5 or 6 times now regarding the same issue over and over and over. The units that are on the roof don't have chillers as part of the unit. I have no idea where Mr. Chinese lives or what he encountered with the commercial building immediately adjacent to him. I also want to just clarify a couple things. Mr. Chinese, who's a council person, several times misrepresented the record in the application. We are not looking to install a sign 90 feet up in the air. So I do want to clarify that record, and I take some strong opposition to the fact that he alluded to the fact that we're doing a 90-foot tall sign being installed. That's not at all. You saw the application. We're 50 feet up. We're exactly in the same place as the Carter sign that was there. Probably over the same holes that mounted that sign. So you know, it's very, it's very upsetting when we're trying to have public meetings like this, and then there's a lot of misinformation that's being kind of represented. So again, for the record, Danny clearly showed you the sign is 50 feet. It's exactly where the old Cardis sign was. It's not 90 feet, as Mr. Chinese continuously kept saying on the public record.
Okay. Any other questions? Anyone in opposition for this application? Anyone in opposition? Okay. So now we have a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, before we close, I would like to ask Dan and Antonio, I know that you guys have mentioned before, are you guys against any requirements when it comes to the LED sign, as far as when the sign comes on, the timing between messaging and the time that it comes off?
Mr. Vice Chair, no, we are not. And obviously, whatever parameters of operating that sign, you guys come up with, we will make sure we communicate that, and our zoning enforcement officer will ensure it's being operated that way. The only consideration that I do want to mention to you is that the Board of Education occasionally may have a night meeting there, where they may want to just display a message. Other than that, we're open to whatever you guys put in as far as operational limits.
I think Mr. Harrit is gonna put that program for them, right?
Through the chair, and Councilman Revis's question, I think you guys should set in your stipulation or your agreement for the ground mounted sign, whether you want it to have a message every 30 seconds to avoid the flashing concerns, and also the time that you would like it to be off, except on special instances where life and safety or traffic concerns would be benefited. I think that would be fair.
What's the rule now for the timing? 30-second minimum, maximum? 40 seconds, 50 seconds?
Well, we don't allow flashing, and what we would say, there'd have to be a transition time. So if you set your message and you said that you keep your message, we have on one sign, I know we have 2-minute interview. I know another sign we have 30-second interview. And I think the message wants to be broadcasted to the people as they're approaching the school to let them know exactly what's going on, whether parent-teacher pickup may have been moved to the rear. So I would recommend that, I think, I don't know, Antonio, but maybe, during school or during a section, every 15 seconds, a transfer or change in message.
I think that's more than adequate. Sean, we can also take a look at the stipulation of the existing sign that's being operated right now at the high school. But I think what you just suggested would be more than adequate. And it is for the purpose of what you described. It is really, if there's an event there, there's an issue with an entrance, there's an issue with traffic that needs to be clarified, the message would be posted so you could continuously have internal flow with drop off or pickup of students and kids in buses.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, I'd say no flashing, 15-second intervals, and the lights or the sign should be turned off by, I figure, unless there's an event, 8 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
30-second intervals then, right?
It's my recommendation. Obviously, it's up to the board, just because I know that the traffic pattern may need to send that message quicker to drivers who are coming up for either parent pickup or to pick up the kids from the gym or something that may have changed. And the technology is so fast now that somebody programming it from home or the gym would be able to change those messages pretty instantaneous.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
You
Sorry,
need
Mr.
another-
Chairman, sir.
Any more questions, or we're gonna ready for close it?
The board doesn't have any further questions.
Doesn't look like. Motion to close application 2502.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, the close application 25-0240 Apple Ridge Road, City of Danbury, from public hearing.
Motion made by Mr. Rivas,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I need a motion to open 25-0240 Apple Ridge Road for discussion and voting.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to open application 25-0240 Apple Ridge Road, City of Danbury, for voting session and discussion.
Motion made by Mr. Rivas,
Second.
seconded by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Now the magic work. Any discussion from you guys?
Well, I think basically, you know, this, as far as that sign goes, which the one representative of that district said nobody can see it except for I guess the 12 people that were Mrs. Duffy's neighbors, that nobody can see the sign.
Well,
But I think that, you know, it's for people coming in and driving through that road. But I think, like you said, 15-second, because 30 seconds might be too long if people are driving in. 15 seconds and sunrise, sunset, unless there's something special.
If it gets turned off at night, I
Ma'am,
don't see any problem with it.
ma'am,
Listen,
ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We're in an executive session
Sorry.
now. I
Yeah.
apologize.
right,
Sorry, ma'am.
okay,
Like I was saying, I think sunrise, sunset, everybody's happy.
yeah. Well, it's, we're gonna put the limit on the flashing, 15 seconds, whatever, and the timing for the lights will be turned off by maybe 8 o'clock. Is that okay with you guys?
Well, in the
Mr.
winter, 8 o'clock, it's dark from 5 o'clock on. So I would say sunrise, sunset, because even if there's a sporting activity,
No, because if they have a school activity late,
yeah, but most of them are done by 7:30, 8 o'clock, depending on the unless it's basketball or something. Then those are certain circumstances where they could leave it on a little longer.
Yeah, sunrise, sunset, I'm okay with that.
The only issue with sunset and sunrise is it changes throughout the year.
But
You
they
know,
yeah. Yeah.
Some summer months.
It's like a photo cell timer light.
it'll-
figure that out.
uh,
And as far as the sign goes, that the thing like we were talking about before, the sign, which is 50 feet up in an area that doesn't allow that normally, but Cardis did have that.
Right.
So
Well, that
they must have had a variance somewhere along the way.
pre-existing for that sign, I think. So let's move out of this discussion. The timing for the electronic sign for the flashing, we all agree 15 seconds. And any other discussion regarding this situation here? They want to have more signs on all sides of the building because existed building, and in order to direct the public, they like all these signs. And the name is Little Big, so I think, any other comment
I
or
mean-
discussion, or if not, let's go for a motion.
If the LED signage is going to be voted on in a favorable position, I would say 15 seconds. I would say the sign comes on, like was mentioned from the public hearing. I'm comfortable with 30 minutes to an hour before school, and we can have the sign come off. Most school activities, after school activities, any sporting events that would be in the gymnasium or auditorium would probably be done by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the latest. So I'm comfortable with either 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I don't think there's going to be Board of Ed meetings that are going to go that long, and they'll probably be already in session by the time the sign needs to come off anyways. So that I would agree with. I would also say that the signage during summer break sign doesn't really need to be on. So we could add a stipulation where if it needs to broadcast something important to the students or the parents, that it could be turned on for that special occasion.
Okay.
You guys let me know.
Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
actually, I'm pretty confused. So it was my understanding that the changing of the sign would be to the next message, not it turning off. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 15
So-
seconds is changing the
15
message
seconds.
to whatever the next message is.
So the amount of time it takes for it to change to the next message doesn't really matter because the sign's always going to be lit.
Yeah. Sign
Well,
will be lit.
it's lit from the timer comes on till the timer goes off, and every
Right.
15 seconds they have the option to change the message.
So I don't think we need to dictate how long the message stays on the board. That doesn't matter to us if the thing's going to be lit the whole time.
Well, we're trying to eliminate having the change every like 2 seconds. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think that's-
Brandon, to answer your question, with what Sean was saying earlier, is that the regulation states that there be no flashing lights. So the reasoning behind the 15-second is
That's
to
strong.
minimize the flashing of the lights on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting this high school wanted to flash new messages every 10 seconds?
It's like
No,
it's moving.
No,
they
didn't. They just want to.
I'm
They
not-
just want to put something on the board. So I think we just need to say, hey, this is the time you can put it on the board. This is the time you can't. I don't think we should try to manage how often the screen changes.
I mean, I understand
You
what
see
you're
the
saying,
sign,
but
you see the sign
the-
to Leonard how we move so fast, like 5 seconds, 2 seconds, I think. They say this sale for this sale for that, this stuff for sale. The same thing with the school. If they have 2, 3 messages, they're gonna pass the first message, the second message after 15 seconds, and the third message after 15 seconds. So the message stay there for 15 seconds and then it move and the next message come.
So
If they
are
have
they
one
mad
mes- they
about
have one
the
message, they leave.
constant light, or are they mad about the changing of the light? Because that's all that's going to happen.
I think
again-
that's about the changing of the light flashing on and off.
Okay.
I think it's getting carried away. I think and this is the issue that was mentioned earlier in the meeting when we were up in public session, and now we're having the discussion here, is that because there hasn't been a revision of the zoning regulations, there's a lack of zoning regulations to curtail this issue with LED lighting and signage in the city of Danbury. There is no specific regulation controlling this, so therefore the regulation just stipulates no flashing signage. If there was a regulation revision that would then put language in to kind of give us a guidance on how to approach this, there isn't. So I think by putting it this way, where it's 15 seconds, we create some sort of consistency in these cases where they come up for LED signage. And I think that it's best, my suggestion, the board can choose how they want to go about it their way, is keep consistency, keep the 15 seconds, and then set the time where it comes on, goes off, to keep some sort of consistency with the LED signage, and create a compromise between the neighbors and the school to eliminate some light pollution during the night, and then be able to have the school relay their message to the students and parents.
Yeah, I think the word flashing is the one that confusing everybody. It's the scrolling of the messages. They turn around. There is no flashing. So anyway, yeah, someone make a motion and let's.
I'm sorry, just one more thing. So if I could speak for the neighbors, I think their problem is the times the sign will be active, not how often it changes its screen. And I think that's what we need to address.
Right. We did say, I was suggesting,
Last time we talked, you said something about sunrise to sunset or something like that.
Yeah,
So-
and Juan said sunrise till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock if there's an event. If there's an event, it could now basketball, that type of stuff, that happens in the late December into January, February. So those are when it gets dark early. So that sign's going to be on from 5 o'clock or 4:30, 4:45 when it gets dark till 9 o'clock at night. That's 4 hours of a sign on, and it's going to piss people off if it's on late at night. You don't need it on during basketball games. Maybe in the beginning, up until a certain time. The games usually start at 6:30 anyway, basketball games, and they're over by 8 o'clock. So
Now, I thought they said that they don't play sports there.
they have a gym.
Okay.
So maybe they're going to play basketball. I don't know. They're not going to build any
Okay,
outside.
let's get over this lighting situation from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, and that's it, because someday it's gonna be
Right.
dark early, light, whatever. Let's forget the sunrise, sunset. We don't need to go by that. Is that 7?
I would say,
7 o'clock, 7
7
o'clock
o'clock till 6
to
or
8
7
in the
12
evening.
hours.
Yeah. All right.
Whatever you guys
Any more
want.
question, Mr. Brandon?
None.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 25-02 40 Apple Ridge Road, City of Danbury, RA 40 zone, section 3J 1B, increase maximum roof projection height from 10 feet to 16 feet from rooftop mechanical equipment, section 8.E.2G, increase maximum allowable size sign face from 32 square feet to 102 square feet for a two-sided freestanding sign, 51 square feet per side. Increase allowable number of wall signs from 1 to 4. Increase maximum wall sign face area from 32 square feet to 346 square feet total for the 4 wall signs. Sign A-90 square, sign A-90 square feet, sign B 90 square feet, sign C 50 square feet, sign D 116 feet. Increase wall sign height from 20 feet to 50.5 feet for sign A, and from 20 feet to 28.4 feet for sign B. Section 8E6.D, allow sign which incorporates flashing or moving illumination for freestanding sign for secondary school, with the exception, special exception that the sign be lit up from 7 a.m. I'm going to say 8 p.m. During the school normal operating hours or days, with 15-second intervals on messaging. The sign may be allowed to be turned on for any special occasion, and turned off, following the conclusion of that occasion at the school, as per plan submitted.
I second.
Motion made by Mr. Rivas, seconded by Mr.
Oh.
DeLucia.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just for my reference, I approve this as per plan submitted. I believe it will not, the variance will not adversely affect public health, safety, and welfare. And it's for the new construction of the school, which will greatly benefit the community, the students, and everybody involved.
Good.
Sorry about that.
Motion made by Mr. Rivas,
I second. I also
Seconded
agree
by
that it will not cause any risk or the health, safety, and of general public. Second.
motion made by seconded by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So
Mr.
approved.
Chairman, just one quick question before we vote. This,
We already voted, Bill.
but I'm saying, well,
Ready.
before we,
You can
before we.
ask the question after the
Okay.
recording, okay?
All right, fine.
Right, so now let's make a motion to adjourn.
Really quick, Mr. Chairman, just a special thanks to Melissa and Dan for such a thorough presentation on this. There's a lot of heavy lifting with all these variances, so
Yeah,
shout out to Melissa, our own, and Dan, it was very well presented. Antonio, you got to work on your presentation.
you
No,
and Shaz,
listen, I want to thank you, Sean, because this was
Yeah.
a very
That's-
complicated application. And
this is the
without
last
you, we
time
would've
we
messed it
help
up.
the city guys. This is the last time we're gonna help those city guys because they
Hey,
have
I just
hard
want to
to
ask
change
before you
rules.
guys adjourn, did you actually vote? Because, did you actually vote?
We voted.
Yeah.
You did
Antonio,
vote,
yes.
It's
okay.
approved.
Let's adjourn. Let's make
Okay.
adjournment, then you guys.
Really good discussions tonight, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and all of your members, you guys did a great job vetting this out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Rotello.
Make sure you make a good school now. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
motion
Second.
made by Mr. Rivas, seconded by Mr. DeLucia. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
All
now
right,
you
quick,
guys,
quick question.
Night, everybody.
after the recording stop, if you wanna talk, Mr. Prata, if you wanna ask question, go ahead.
A quick question for you,